So let's talk about two characters that are shaping up to be real standouts in this beta cycle, Saber and Archer. If you've been paying attention to recent updates, you've probably heard whispers about their kits being not just good, but genuinely impressive. And what's even crazier is that one of them is being offered for free. So today, we're diving into what the testers actually think about them. No flashy hype, just grounded, real gameplay impressions. Save up to 25% on the Casteris banner at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description. Let's start with Archer. Honestly, this one caught a lot of people off guard. Not because he's bad, but because he's performing this well for a free character. That's not something we see often. The feedback from testers is clear. Archer might not reach the upper limits of damage like someone from the 3.x hypercarry tier, but when you put him in a solid basic setup, his damage output rivals a lot of the main DPS characters from the 2.x era. And that's saying something, especially considering you don't need to break your wallet or your sanity trying to build him. Of course, he's not quite at the level where you'd build an entire hypercarry team around him. If you're min-maxing and trying to squeeze out every bit of value, you're probably better off going with someone like Phenon or Saber. But for most players, Archer hits that sweet spot of being easy to access, relatively low investment, and still very fun to use. One of the things that really works in his favor is that he doesn't require heavy Eidolon investment. Even at Constellation 0, Archer's gameplay feels smooth and consistent. If you do go to Eidolon 1, you'll notice some improvement, but it's not necessary to enjoy playing him. This makes him ideal for players in North America or Europe who might be more limited when it comes to pulling new characters or upgrading them quickly. Now, let's address the elephant in the room: Sparkle. If you've seen Archer talked about online, you've probably noticed his name always shows up next to hers. And yeah, that's not just coincidence. The synergy between the two is so strong that it's hard to imagine a proper Archer team without her. She's essentially his signature light cone and gameplay partner rolled into one. The two just click. The reason for that is simple. Archer is very skill point hungry. We're talking more demanding than Dan Heng Imbibitor Looney levels here. And that's not an exaggeration. If you've played Dan Heng IL, you already know how much setup he needs. So if Archer wants to keep up his pressure, you need a partner like Sparkle who can feed him those skill points efficiently. This is great for veteran players who already have her, but for newer players, this dependency might be more limiting than expected. Without Sparkle, Archer's flow can feel a bit choppy. There's also the issue of his path. Archer is a hunt character, which usually means strong single-target performance. And yes, he delivers on that. His single-target damage is legit. The problem is, the current Star Rail meta heavily favors multi-target content. That's why characters like Fake Xiao have seen more usage than most hunt units. So even though Archer hits hard, he doesn't always fit into today's most optimized team structures. But that could change with a future region or meta shift. Still, for a free character, Archer is a gift. If you're just getting into the game or starting a fresh account, he's an amazing early investment. And even if you don't have Sparkle yet, any support that doesn't hog skill points can sub in. Plus, since Archer doesn't rely on technique points or energy regeneration gimmicks, he pairs well with classic units like Sunday or Robin. Testers also mentioned he works surprisingly well with both Tribby and Sparkle, especially when a healer rounds out the team. You can easily achieve stable baseline performance even at Constellation 0. Now, let's shift gears and talk about Saber, who might just be the most polished and well-rounded character in this entire beta cycle. Testers were clear. Out of all the characters they tried, Saber stood out as the most complete. Her damage output is high, very high, comparable to other 3.x DPS units. And what makes her even more appealing is how intuitive and straightforward her kit is. There's no hidden mechanic, no weird setup timing, just clean, satisfying damage that feels good right from the start. That's especially great news for newer players who want someone reliable, but not overly complex. But what really puts Saber on a pedestal is her flexibility. She doesn't feel clunky. If Phaenon's sword-swinging pace isn't your thing, Saber is a fantastic alternative. Her entire design allows you to use her in a variety of team compositions without needing to overthink it. That's rare in modern beta cycles. Yes, her ultimate costs 360 energy, which is on the higher side, but she has internal mechanics that help her generate energy on her own, so in practice, you rarely feel that cost as a burden. Her ultimate is definitely her strongest move, but even her basic attacks and skills hit hard. And unlike Phaenon, Saber can benefit from a proper sub-DPS like Tribby. That means your team comps can be more dynamic. You're not locked into just support plus carry. You can do hybrid setups, multi-buffer teams, even alternate skill rotations depending on your team layout. And let's talk about synergy. Testers consistently reported that the best performing team for Saber included Sunday, Tribby, and Huohuo. Why? Because Sunday and Huohuo together provide 102 energy points, giving Saber the recharge cushion she needs to keep up her pace. Meanwhile, Tribby's Def Down effect boosts Saber's physical damage and attack speed, creating a really fluid and responsive feel. If you don't have Tribby, you can swap in Robin and still get very solid performance. She also works well with Sparkle, Ruan Mei, Bronya, and even Ting Yun. Basically, as long as you've got a decent support roster, Saber can slot in with minimal friction. It's very reminiscent of early flexible meta units like Seal, plug and play, no stress. In multi-target content, she shines even brighter. That's something testers really noticed when comparing her directly to Phaenon. In Divergent Universe, Apocalyptic Shadow, and Pure Fiction, Saber runs laps around Phaenon in terms of efficiency. Her ultimate damage scales up as the number of enemies goes down, which sounds backwards at first but actually results in a very smooth experience whether you're clearing mobs or facing bosses. Now, is she perfect? Not entirely. The only significant issue raised by testers was that Saber's Eidolons don't scale very well beyond Constellation 3. From Eidolon 4 through Eidolon 6, her performance starts to fall behind other top-tier characters like Phaenon, Castorus, or Aglaia. So if you're chasing max investment, be aware that her long-term ceiling might be a bit lower than others. But for the vast majority of players, even at Constellation 0, she already feels complete. That's the word testers kept using. Complete. Saber is one of the few characters who feels like she could launch to the live servers right now without any major adjustments. No reworks, no stat tweaks, she just works. And that's rare. So in summary, if you're looking for an easy recommendation, Saber is probably the most well-rounded character in this beta, while Archer offers surprising value and consistency as a free unit, especially if you've already got Sparkle. They each have their flaws, but the overall feedback from testers is clear. These two are going to leave a strong impression on the live servers. What do you think? Are you planning to build Saber or Archer? Or are you still on the fence about investing? Drop your thoughts below, especially if you've got team ideas or comparisons with other main DPS units. I'd love to see what you're cooking up. Save up to 25% on the Castorus banner at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description.